Hey guys, welcome back to The Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. Backstory. I worked at this luxury resort for about 2.5 years and was one of 2 employees who survived the complete retraining when our hotel switched to a different international chain in early 2023. During that transition period, we received extensive training about company policies and procedures. Cast, Sarah, front desk manager, relatively new to the position, only about 5 months on the job. Me, generally easygoing unless someone crosses a line. Others will be introduced as the story unfolds. Story. One September afternoon in 2024, I arrived for my 3:11 p.m. shift. As I walked through the sliding glass doors into the marble-floored lobby, I immediately noticed something was wrong. Both morning shift front desk workers, Emma and Ashley, had clearly been crying. Their mascara had left dark streaks down their cheeks. Sarah, our manager, was standing behind them looking like she was about to explode. "What happened here?" I asked, setting down my bag. Sarah ran her fingers through her hair in frustration. "We've got the guest from hell in-house. He's a Diamond Elite member, highest tier in our rewards program. This guy's been demanding free upgrades, complimentary services, you name it. Every single department has called to complain about him. Just now, he came down and literally screamed at Emma and Ashley until they broke down crying." Emma and Ashley were both 19, fresh out of high school, and probably the sweetest people you'd ever meet. This was their first real job, and they genuinely loved helping guests. While Sarah was talking, I pulled up the guest's information on our system. As I read through his profile, a smile spread across my face. "Sarah," I said, "did you notice he's actually an employee at one of our other properties?" "Yeah, so what?" she replied, shuffling some papers on the desk. "Well," I said, pulling out the employee discount agreement form, "there's something interesting in the fine print. When traveling with an employee discount, you're required to maintain professional behavior. Violations can result in suspension of discount privileges or even termination." Sarah's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" I nodded, already looking up his home property's phone number. "Want to have a chat with his general manager?" "Give me that phone," Sarah said, grabbing the receiver. I could hear the conversation from where I stood. "Hello, this is Sarah Mitchell, front desk manager at the downtown location." "Yes, I'm calling about your employee, Mr. Richards. Well, we've had some serious issues." When she hung up, Sarah had the most satisfied look I'd ever seen. "His GM is livid. He gave me his personal cell number in case there are any more problems." "That's great," I said, "but I'm not done yet." "Oh no," Sarah said. "What are you planning?" "Watch and learn," I replied, picking up the phone again. "Hello, rewards program customer service. I'd like to report someone using a rewards account while staying on an employee discount." The customer service rep gasped. "That's strictly prohibited." "I thought so. Let me give you his information." I provided all the details, suggesting they might want to review his previous stays too. After hanging up, I systematically removed his rewards number from the current stay and made new room keys without concierge lounge access. "Time for a walk," I announced to Sarah. I visited every department, housekeeping, maintenance, restaurant, spa, sharing the news. Each time I mentioned his name, I got the same response. "Oh God, that guy." Later that evening, Mr. Richards approached the desk, surprisingly subdued. "My key seems to not be working," he said quietly. "Oh, I'm so sorry about that," I replied with my best customer service smile. "Let me fix that for you right away." The next day, I checked his rewards account. Suspended. A week later, the account had vanished completely. Before leaving that evening, Sarah pulled me aside. "Hey, do me a favor?" "Sure, what's up?" "If I ever make you mad, please just tell me so I can fix it. I never want to be on your bad side." We both laughed, but I could tell she meant it. The next one is an entitled people's story. I never thought I'd have to deal with a homeowner association living out here on my 200-acre ranch in rural Texas about 30 miles outside of Dallas. My family has owned this land since my great-grandfather purchased it in 1923, and we've been raising cattle and growing crops here ever since. The nearest neighbor used to be 3 miles away until about 5 years ago when some developer bought the adjacent property and built one of those cookie-cutter suburban neighborhoods called Whispering Meadows. I didn't pay much attention to them at first. Live and let live, that's always been my motto. Their fancy houses with their perfectly manicured lawns stopped right at my property line, and I kept doing what I've always done. Tending to my Black Angus cattle, maintaining my equipment, and working the land just like my daddy and his daddy before him taught me. The first sign of trouble came last spring when I received a certified letter from something called the Whispering Meadows Homeowners Association. I almost laughed out loud when I read it. The letter claimed I was in violation of several homeowner association bylaws, including improper fence maintenance, unauthorized livestock, and my personal favorite, unapproved agricultural activities. I tossed the letter in my desk drawer and forgot about it. A week later, another letter arrived, this one threatening fines if I didn't comply within 30 days. I called my lawyer, Jim Davidson, who's been handling my family's legal matters for 20 years. "Jim, you're not going to believe this nonsense," I said, reading him the letter. He chuckled. "John, you're not even part of their homeowner association. Your ranch predates their development by about a century. They have zero jurisdiction over your property. Just ignore them." So that's exactly what I did, but the homeowner association didn't like being ignored. One Saturday morning in June, I was out fixing a section of fence where some of my cattle had been pushing against it when I spotted 3 people in matching polo shirts with homeowner association patrol embroidered on them walking onto my property. They were carrying clipboards and taking pictures with their phones. I jumped in my ATV and drove over to them. "Can I help you folks?" A woman with a severe bob haircut who looked to be in her 50s stepped forward. "Mr. Thompson, I'm Karen Wheeler, president of the Whispering Meadows Homeowner Association. These are my colleagues, Brad Peterson and Susan Martinez. We're here to document the ongoing violations on your property." I couldn't believe the audacity. "Ma'am, this is private property. You're trespassing." "Mr. Thompson," she said in a condescending tone, "we've sent multiple notices about your violations. Since you've chosen to ignore them, we're here to conduct an official inspection and assessment of fines." "Listen carefully," I said, trying to keep my temper in check. "This ranch isn't part of your homeowner association. Never has been, never will be. You have no authority here. Now please leave before I call the sheriff." Brad, a younger man with perfectly styled hair, stepped forward. "Actually, sir, according to our bylaws, any property adjacent to Whispering Meadows that impacts our community's aesthetic value falls under our purview." I pulled out my phone. "All right, I'm calling the sheriff." "That won't be necessary," Karen said, pulling out a tablet. "We'll just finish our inspection, and this is my last warning," I interrupted. "Get off my land now, or I'm calling law enforcement and pressing charges for trespassing." They exchanged glances but stood their ground, so I called the sheriff's office. Within 15 minutes, Deputy Roberts pulled up in his patrol car. He's known my family for years and even buys beef from us regularly. "What seems to be the problem here?" he asked, though I could tell by his expression he already had a good idea. I explained the situation, and the homeowner association trio tried to argue their case about their supposed authority over my property. Deputy Roberts listened patiently, then turned to them. "Folks, this is pretty simple. You're on private property without permission. Mr. Thompson has asked you to leave. If you don't, I'll have to arrest you for criminal trespass." "This is outrageous," Karen exclaimed. "We have every right—" "No, ma'am, you don't," Deputy Roberts interrupted. "This ranch isn't part of your homeowner association. Your authority ends at your development's boundaries. Now, are you leaving voluntarily, or am I taking you in?" They finally left, but Karen turned back at the property line. "This isn't over, Mr. Thompson. You'll be hearing from our attorneys." I shook my head, looking forward to it. The next day, I called Jim and filled him in on what happened. He wasn't surprised. "These homeowner associations think they're little kingdoms," he said, "but they picked the wrong rancher to mess with. I'll file for a temporary restraining order first thing Monday morning." True to Karen's word, I received a letter from their law firm, Dixon and Associates, the following week. They were threatening legal action if I didn't comply with homeowner association regulations and pay $5,000 in accumulated fines. Jim's response was to countersue for harassment and file for a permanent injunction to prevent them from entering my property. He also added a cease and desist demand regarding their claims of authority over my ranch. The homeowner association didn't back down. Instead, they escalated. One morning, I discovered someone had placed violation notices on my fence posts along the property line. A few days later, I caught 2 homeowner association board members attempting to photograph my cattle from just inside my property line. I installed security cameras and posted no trespassing signs every 50 feet along the boundary with Whispering Meadows. But the final straw came when I caught them trying to serve me with papers by driving onto my property in a golf cart, spooking my cattle and causing them to break through a fence section. That incident cost me several hours of rounding up scared cattle and repairing the fence. I had it all on camera, including the damage to my property and the stress caused to my animals. Jim was furious when he saw the footage. John, they've crossed a line. This isn't just harassment anymore. They've caused actual damages. We're going to hit them hard. He amended our lawsuit to include property damage, livestock endangerment, and deliberate interference with agricultural operations. He also added personal liability claims against Karen Wheeler and the other board members who had trespassed on my property. The court date was set for 3 months later. During that time, the homeowner association tried everything they could to make my life difficult. They complained to the county about imaginary health code violations called animal control about my unauthorized livestock operation, and even tried to claim my ranch was causing their property values to decrease. When we finally got our day in court, I wore my best jeans, pressed shirt, and my well-worn boots. Karen and her homeowner association board showed up in business suits looking like they'd stepped out of a corporate boardroom. Judge Martinez, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, listened patiently as their attorney tried to argue that the homeowner association had authority over neighboring properties that affected the aesthetic and property values of the community. Your Honor, their lawyer said, Mr. Thompson's agricultural activities are diminishing property values in Whispering Meadows. The smell of livestock, the unsightly equipment, and the general appearance of his ranch are detrimental to our community standards. Jim stood up. Your Honor, I'd like to present several exhibits demonstrating the absurdity of their claims. He proceeded to show documentation proving my ranch had been in continuous operation for nearly a century before Whispering Meadows existed. He presented satellite images showing how the developer had built right up to my property line, knowing full well there was an active ranch next door. Then came the security footage of their various trespassing incidents, including the golf cart incident that spooked my cattle. The judge's expression grew increasingly stern as she watched. Mr. Davidson, she said, do you have documentation of the damages from these incidents? Yes, Your Honor. Jim presented receipts for fence repairs, veterinary bills for checking the cattle after the incident, and estimates of lost time and labor. The homeowner association's attorney tried to argue that their actions were justified under their bylaws, but Judge Martinez cut him off. Counselor, I've reviewed your homeowner association's bylaws thoroughly. Nowhere do they grant you authority over properties outside your development. Furthermore, Mr. Thompson's ranch is protected under Texas's Right to Farm Act. Your client's actions constitute harassment and criminal trespass. She turned to address Karen directly. Mrs. Wheeler, I find it disturbing that you, as homeowner association president, led these unauthorized incursions onto private property. Your actions showed a blatant disregard for property rights and the law. The judge's ruling was comprehensive. She granted the permanent injunction barring any homeowner association representative from entering my property without written permission. She ordered them to pay $25,000 in damages for the golf cart incident and subsequent repairs, plus another $15,000 in punitive damages for their pattern of harassment. But she wasn't done. Furthermore, I'm ordering the homeowner association board members who participated in these activities to personally pay Mr. Thompson's legal fees. Your actions were not protected by your positions on the board, as you were acting outside your authority. Karen's face turned red. But Your Honor, this will bankrupt our homeowner association. We can't possibly... Mrs. Wheeler, the judge interrupted, you should have thought about that before you decided to harass a legitimate agricultural operation. Perhaps this will serve as a reminder that homeowner association authority has limits. After court, Jim was grinning ear to ear. That went even better than I expected. They'll think twice before trying to expand their authority again. I thought that would be the end of it, but Karen and her board weren't done making trouble. They just got more creative about it. A week after the ruling, residents of Whispering Meadows started filing individual complaints with the county about my ranch. Every few days I'd get visits from different county inspectors, health department, environmental services, animal control. Each time they'd find nothing wrong and apologize for having to check. One inspector, Mike Rodriguez, pulled me aside after his third visit. Look, Mr. Thompson, I know what's going on here. These complaints are clearly coordinated. They're all coming from Whispering Meadows residents using almost identical language. They're trying to wear you down through bureaucratic harassment. I nodded. I figured as much. Can anything be done about it? He smiled. Actually, yes, there's a county ordinance against filing frivolous complaints in bad faith. If you can prove these complaints are coordinated, you could file a complaint with the county commissioner's office. I called Jim again, and he loved the idea. We gathered all the complaints, analyzed the patterns, and even found social media posts from homeowner association board members encouraging residents to file complaints against my nuisance ranch. Jim compiled everything into a comprehensive report for the county commissioner's office. 2 weeks later, I was invited to speak at a commissioner's meeting. The meeting room was packed with Whispering Meadows residents, including Karen and her board members. I presented our evidence, explaining how this was a continuation of the homeowner association's harassment campaign, just using different tactics. The commissioners were not amused. Commissioner Rodriguez, no relation to the inspector, spoke first. "This is a clear abuse of county resources," he said. "Each of these inspections costs taxpayer money and takes our inspectors away from legitimate concerns. Moreover, this appears to be a coordinated effort to circumvent a court order through proxy harassment." The commissioners voted unanimously to implement a new policy requiring complainants to pay for inspections if their complaints were found to be without merit. They also referred the matter to the district attorney's office for possible criminal charges related to filing false reports. Karen and her supporters stormed out of the meeting, but I wasn't done yet. Jim suggested we file a civil RICO suit against the homeowner association board members for their coordinated harassment campaign. "A RICO suit?" I asked. "Isn't that for organized crime?" Jim chuckled. "It can be used for any pattern of coordinated illegal activity. Their actions, trespassing, harassment, filing false reports, form a pattern that could qualify. Even if we don't win, it'll send a message." The RICO suit got their attention. Within days, their attorney called Jim asking to negotiate. We agreed to drop the RICO suit if they signed a comprehensive agreement that included a written admission that they had no authority over my property, a $50,000 payment for additional damages and legal fees, the resignation of Karen and 2 other board members, a clause requiring the homeowner association to pay $10,000 in liquidated damages for any future harassment or interference with my ranch. They signed the agreement, and Karen and her allies on the board stepped down. The new board president, Tom Mitchell, came to see me personally. "Mr. Thompson," he said, extending his hand, "I want to apologize for everything that's happened. Most of us moved here because we love the rural setting, including your ranch. We've been embarrassed by the previous board's actions." I shook his hand. "Water under the bridge, as long as we can be good neighbors going forward." "Actually," he said, "I was wondering if you'd be interested in hosting some educational events for our residents. Many of our families have kids who've never seen a working ranch. It could help build better understanding between our communities." I thought about it and agreed. Now, twice a year I host open house events for Whispering Meadows residents. Kids get to learn about ranching, see the cattle up close, and even help collect eggs from my chicken coop. It's become a popular community event, and several residents have become regular customers for my beef and eggs. The irony isn't lost on me. The same homeowner association that tried to shut me down is now promoting my ranch as a unique community feature. Their real estate listings even mention the authentic Texas ranch experience next door as a selling point. Karen moved away shortly after resigning, selling her house to a lovely couple who bring their kids to visit the ranch almost every weekend. The new homeowner association board focuses on actually maintaining their community instead of trying to expand their authority, and we've all learned to be better neighbors. As for me, I'm still doing what I've always done, working my land, tending my cattle, and carrying on my family's ranching tradition. Only now I have security cameras, a file full of legal documents, and some interesting stories to tell about the time a homeowner association tried to mess with a Texas rancher. The whole experience taught me something important. Sometimes standing your ground isn't just about protecting yourself. It's about protecting a way of life and the principles that matter. Those homeowner association folks thought they could bulldoze over a century of ranching tradition with their rules and regulations, but they learned that out here in Texas, we take property rights seriously. And every now and then, when I'm fixing a fence or checking on my cattle, I look over at Whispering Meadows and smile, knowing that sometimes the good guys do win and justice prevails, even if you have to fight for it. The next one is a petty revenge story. I work from home full-time and rarely drive unless I'm grocery shopping or out for an appointment. In my complex, there are non-reserved spots and reserved spots in the underground garage, all of which are not assigned. As long as you have a reserved sticker on your vehicle, any of the reserved spots, which are all labeled reserved, are fair game. I have a non-reserved sticker because it's $40 cheaper than the reserved pass. I was coming back from an appointment and turned into my neighbor's reserved spot so that I could back my car into the open, non-reserved spot behind me. Lo and behold, male Karen in his rusty 2007 RAV4 starts honking at me for being in his spot, telling me that I can't park there because I don't have a reserved sticker. I told him I was only backing out. I probably should have let it go, but his Karen-ness pissed me off so much. As I was getting on the elevator, I quickly realized he only wanted to park there was because it was right next to the elevator. A light bulb went off in my head and I made my way to the rental office, it's in same building, and asked to upgrade my parking pass. It's an extra $40 I'll be shelling out, but it's worth the petty revenge. I'm waiting for him to leave for work tomorrow so I can move my car into his spot and leave it there for God knows how long. There are perks to being fully remote. The next one is a malicious compliance story. In my early 30s, I, now 40F, worked for a university as a project manager. We were state funded and therefore every nickel of spending had to be run through our department accountant who was not terribly well liked. She was very nitpicky, would demand documentation on some expenses but not others, and would be very condescending when she had to send stuff back for correction, aka done to her liking. It had nothing to do with being incorrect. Rumor had it that she only got and stayed in her position because she was related to a board member. That being said, I got used to her shenanigans pretty early and just did my best to get my purchases through her as quickly as possible so that I could continue my projects. About a year into my employment, I was handed a project that had been initiated by our director. It was a 5-year training program that was described to me as the director's baby. My manager got it off the ground and then passed it to me to maintain for the remainder of the program. I threw myself into this program not only because I enjoyed what I did, but also the director was cool as hell. I'm still friends with him on social media, and I wanted the program to succeed for him. I had a project coordinator that worked with me for detail stuff like ordering supplies and working with facilities. My focus was on budget, content, and working with the clients. After she and I had run several successful training sessions under this new program, we needed to order more supplies of standard training stuff like pens, notepads, name tags, etc. Something else we regularly used, per the director's request, was boxes of tissues, which for some unknown reason was not something we could get from our office supply vendor. My coordinator had been buying them in bulk at a warehouse store with her purchase card, and then storing them in the basement, only taking what we needed for each training session. When she went to submit the receipt for the new container of tissue boxes, the accountant lit into her about how tissues were not an approved purchase. Even when she showed the accountant an email from the beginning of the program showing that the director has requested tissues be provided to the participants, she stated that the director didn't make or enforce the purchasing policy, which is technically true. When my coordinator, who was normally a very bold and brassy lady, came into my office looking defeated and told me she was going to have to take the tissues back unless the accountant received sufficient written justification, I got pissed. I could have pushed the issue up the chain, but I didn't want to bother my manager or the director with this nonsense. Instead, I decided to do what I do best, be annoying. One thing I am good at is writing extremely detailed bullcrap. I can elaborate on any detail no matter how small. I'm especially good at it when I'm mad. So I popped myself down in front of my computer and in one go wrote a 5.5-page email. We did a print preview to see exactly how long it was, on why we needed boxes of tissues for this program. I never put in there because the director said so, but I listed off every other possible justification and then wrote a mini essay on each of those points. My coordinator was sitting in the corner of my office giggling as she watched my hands fly over the keyboard. I sent the email around noon. Just before quitting time, my coordinator stuck her head back into my office to let me know that the tissue purchase had been approved in our system. I never got a reply to my email, the accountant never said anything to me or my coordinator, but my coordinator never again got pushback on buying boxes of tissues. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see
I just need to get this stuff off the counter because I can't stop thinking about it. Sounds quieter but better. I just need to get this stuff off the counter because I can't stop thinking. Just don't ever touch it until, okay, I'm not gonna touch it. I'm not touching anything. I'm keeping my hands to myself and I'm not touching myself. I am not touching myself. Why is that burning smell? It looks like something's burning. Dude, I was just about to pee, and then I remembered I have a mic on me. All right. Is one egg gonna be enough for dinner? No, I mean, yeah. I'm making asparagus and quinoa, which I should start the quinoa. Can't give that audio away for free. True. Oh my God, so true. You just reminded me that I owe someone an audio or a video peen or whatever. Someone had asked me that and I forgot to reply about that. Okay, which is why I said pee first. Yeah, it's just like an audio. It's just like an audio peen. No, I'm not doing the video of it right now. They had just requested. I had done it before years ago, and they came back for more because they said that it was exquisite and a returning customer. That's what I like to hear. I'm really going to sleep now. Oh, good night, Pogo. Thank you so much for being here. Sleep well. Sleep well. No, it's not. You guys have already heard that story about the returned after 4. I've already told you guys that story about that customer. Hey, Sean, how are you? All right, quinoa. Where's my cleaner? No, I've shared it like, oh my God, why is my ass cheeks out? Where's my spray? I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna calm down in like 15 minutes. Just give me some time. Can you start? Yeah, I just have to clean the... You didn't have to go to the little black dress just on my account, but I am flattered. I just have to clean the surface. All right, quinoa. All right. Honestly, not. Every day there is a new thing. I'll start the timer. No. This was a thing. Hold on. Quinoa. Where the fuck is my small? Oh, wait, I'll use this one. You guys have already seen this necklace. I definitely don't want to overdo it, you know? I feel like you're already tired of it. Do I even have any quinoa?